Okay, I want to show you a few licks out of the barred 7th position, and Don uses this chord position a lot. And what I mean by the barred chords position is if we're in a G chord, so this is at the 12th fret, I'm going to back that 3rd string up 2 frets. All right, so that's your G 7th position. All right, so Don uses this a lot in a bunch of different tunes and in his backup. So the first one I'm going to show you is the one he uses for Reno Ride, which he uses this right in the beginning of it. It goes. All right. And the main thing I want to get you out, show you about that is you can use this barred 7th position to back into your D shape chord. So what he's doing in Reno Ride is, all right, and all he's doing is he's just holding that down, brushing that, and backing it up to your D chord. So, or your D shape. So we're in a D shaped G there. So, all right, and you can use that in a bunch of different combinations. So, that's the same chord shape he's using in I Know You're Married in the kickoff. Right at the end of it. So, all right, he's just using a barred D7th chord. Same thing up here, just in D at the 7th fret. So, just backing that position up to your D. All right. So that's one way you can use it. Another thing he does a lot is you base it out of this barred shape, but you want to hold back here 2 frets, lay your finger across all 3 strings, because we're going to be doing some pull-offs here on the 2nd fret. So hold those down on the 3rd, 2 frets back. So we'll be on the 10th fret here if you're doing it in G. And then use your ring finger on the 2nd and your pinky on the 1st on the 12th fret. So keep your pinky planted on the 1st string and hold all of these back on the 10th. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off my ring finger on the 2nd string. So it'll sound like this. All right. So what I'm doing there is I'm pulling up with my 2 fingers here on the right hand. I'm pinching those and I'm pulling off simultaneously with the ring finger. So, all right. And then I'm hitting the 3rd string. So what I'm doing is, all right. So you can do that. You could do a little lick where you go back to your D. So, all right. You could even do that on Reno Ride instead of doing the. You could do. All right. Like I said, you could use that in backup while somebody's singing. You could do it really softly. All right, so there's endless different versions of this you could do using pull-offs and hammer-ons, and the different pinches too. So for an example, actually in Reno Ride and some later versions of Reno Ride, he would do a barred 7th position, and we'll do it in C here because that's where he does it in Reno Ride. You can do a number of combinations holding down that 3rd fret, 2 frets back from your barred position. So hold those 3 down, pinky on the 1st. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hammer on, I'm going to pinch, let's see, the 3rd and 2nd strings together and hammer on to the 4th to the 5th. So, and then end on the 1st string. So, all right, so instead of doing pull-offs, I'm doing hammer-ons. All right, I'm actually pinching the chord without hitting the 4th fret first. So what I'm doing is I'm pinching the 3rd fret on the 3rd and 2nd strings first, but I'm hammering on right after. So and you can move that on up to D. All right. So if that's a little hard to do, to hammer onto the 4th to the 5th like that, you can also just hammer onto the 5th directly. I'm going to pinch the 3rd and 1st strings this time. So like I said, there's a ton of different combinations you can add in here. Pinching the 3rd and 1st strings together first, or the 3rd and 2nd strings together, however you want to do it. But that's the basic idea of it, is holding that position down and then hammering on or pulling off certain strings here. So a good example of this is in Birth of the Blues. Don does a E chord where he uses this kind of technique through a barred E. All right. So we're using this barred E position. Let's see, how does that go? Something like that. Just to give you an idea of how you can do things, mix it up a little bit. And what I'm doing there is still basically based out of that same barred 7th position. So I'm hammering on. I'm doing that same hammer on from the, let's do it back in C where I was explaining it. I'm doing that same hammer on to the 4th to the 5th. So, and then I'm pulling off on the 4th fret and hitting the 5th fret on the 3rd string. So you can also pull the 1st and 2nd at the same time while you're doing that. Like I said, there's a ton of different combinations here. I'm just trying to give you ideas of how to use this. So and walk right back into that 7th chord. But it's all based out of that barred position. So there's some neat little ideas you can use based out of the barred 7th position. And there's a bunch more, like I said, that you can do using that chord. But there's some ideas to fool around with, and I hope you like that one.